For generations, Pluto was introduced as the ninth planet of our solar system. It appeared in textbooks, classroom posters, documentaries, and millions of children's science projects. It was small, distant, and mysterious, but it was still a planet. Then, almost overnight, everything changed. In 2006, astronomers made a decision that shocked the world. Pluto was officially stripped of its planetary status, sparking debates that continue to this day. But here's the surprising truth. The real story isn't about Pluto losing its title. It's about how one tiny world completely changed our understanding of the solar system. If you think Pluto was simply demoted, you're only hearing half the story. Today, we'll uncover why scientists made one of the most controversial decisions in modern astronomy, what Pluto actually is, and why this frozen world may be even more fascinating than when we called it a planet. The further scientists explored the outer solar system, the more they realized Pluto wasn't an exception, it was the beginning of an entirely new frontier. And once you see the evidence, you may never think of Pluto the same way again. 1. The planet that was never supposed to exist. The story of Pluto begins with a mystery. In the early 1900s, astronomers believed the orbits of Uranus and Neptune hinted at the presence of another unseen planet lurking far beyond them. They called this hypothetical world Planet X, and observatories around the world began searching for it. In 1930, a young astronomer named Clyde Tombaugh finally spotted a tiny moving object while comparing photographs of the night sky. The discovery made headlines across the globe. Humanity had apparently found the long-lost ninth planet. Almost immediately, Pluto became a scientific celebrity. Yet there was one major problem. Even from the beginning, Pluto didn't behave like the other planets. It was incredibly small. In fact, astronomers initially overestimated its size because they couldn't observe it clearly. As telescopes improved, Pluto appeared smaller and smaller. Eventually, scientists discovered it was even smaller than Earth's moon. Its orbit was also unlike any other planet. Instead of following a nearly circular path, Pluto travels around the Sun on a highly elongated orbit, tilted about 17 degrees relative to the rest of the planets. At certain points in its journey, Pluto actually moves closer to the Sun than Neptune, before drifting back into the icy darkness of the outer solar system. Everything about Pluto suggested it was unusual. Still, for decades, there was nothing else quite like it. So despite its strange behavior, Pluto remained comfortably listed as the ninth planet, because astronomers simply had nothing better to compare it to. That wouldn't last forever. 2. The discovery that changed everything. The real challenge to Pluto's status didn't come from Pluto itself. It came from what scientists discovered beyond it. During the 1990s, increasingly powerful telescopes began detecting countless frozen objects orbiting in the distant reaches of the solar system. These weren't planets in the traditional sense. They formed a vast region now known as the Kuiper Belt, a gigantic ring of icy worlds stretching beyond Neptune. Suddenly, Pluto no longer looked unique. It looked like the largest known member of an enormous family. Then came the discovery that changed astronomy forever. In 2005, astronomers identified a distant object called Eris. At first, Eris appeared to be slightly larger than Pluto. If Pluto was still considered a planet, logic suggested Eris should become the solar system's 10th planet. But that opened an uncomfortable question. If Eris qualified, what about the dozens of other similar worlds waiting to be discovered? Would schools eventually need to memorize 20 planets? 50? 100? Astronomers realized they had a much bigger problem. For over 70 years, science had never created a precise definition of what a planet actually was. The word everyone had been using lacked a scientific rule. In 2006, members of the International Astronomical Union gathered to solve that problem. They proposed 3 requirements for an object to qualify as a planet. It had to orbit the Sun, be massive enough for its gravity to pull itself into a nearly spherical shape, and most importantly, it had to dominate and clear the region around its orbit. Pluto easily satisfied the first 2 conditions. But it failed the third. Instead of controlling its neighborhood, Pluto shares its orbital region with countless icy objects throughout the Kuiper Belt. It isn't gravitationally dominant the way Earth, Jupiter, or Neptune are. With that single definition, Pluto was reclassified as a dwarf planet. To many people, it felt like Pluto had lost something. But in reality, scientists hadn't made Pluto smaller. They had simply discovered that the solar system was much larger and far more diverse than anyone had imagined. 3. New Horizons revealed a world no one expected for decades. Pluto remained nothing more than a blurry dot through even the most powerful telescopes. Scientists could estimate its size and orbit, but its true appearance remained a mystery. That changed forever on July 14, 2015. After traveling for more than 9 years and covering nearly 5 billion kilometers, NASA's New Horizons spacecraft became the first mission to fly past Pluto. What it sent back stunned the scientific community. Instead of a frozen, lifeless rock, Pluto turned out to be an incredibly complex world. Its most famous feature was a giant heart-shaped region officially named Tombaugh Regio after Pluto's discoverer, Clyde Tombaugh. But this wasn't just a beautiful marking. It was a vast plain made mostly of frozen nitrogen ice stretching for hundreds of kilometers. Researchers had expected only a thin layer of gas, but New Horizons revealed a surprisingly complex atmosphere composed mainly of nitrogen, extending hundreds of kilometers into space. Blue hazes floated high above the surface, created by sunlight interacting with atmospheric particles. Far from being a dead world, Pluto turned out to be dynamic, active, and unexpectedly beautiful. Ironically, it became more scientifically important after losing its planetary title than during the 76 years it spent as the 9th planet. 4. Pluto didn't become less important, it became the beginning of something bigger. Many people still say Pluto was demoted. But that's not really what happened. Pluto itself never changed. Its mountains remained the same. Its glaciers continued flowing. Its atmosphere still expanded and contracted as it traveled around the sun. What changed was our understanding of the solar system. Before the discovery of the Kuiper Belt, astronomers believed the 8 major planets represented almost everything orbiting the sun. Today, we know that beyond Neptune lies an enormous frontier filled with dwarf planets, icy worlds, comets, and countless objects that preserve clues about the birth of the solar system over 4.5 billion years ago. Pluto became the ambassador of that hidden region. Rather than being the smallest major planet, it became the best-studied member of an entirely new class of worlds. Scientists have now identified several other dwarf planets, including Eris, Haumea, Makemake, and Ceres. And many researchers believe hundreds more may still await discovery in the distant reaches of our solar system. Instead of closing a chapter, Pluto opened a completely new one. Its story reminds us that science isn't about protecting old ideas. It's about following evidence wherever it leads. Sometimes that means rewriting textbooks. Sometimes it means admitting our previous understanding was incomplete. And occasionally, it reveals that the universe is far more fascinating than we ever imagined. Pluto may no longer hold the title of the 9th planet, but it has earned something even more valuable. It changed the way humanity understands its own cosmic neighborhood. Pluto's greatest legacy isn't the debate over whether it's a planet. Its real legacy is proving that the solar system is far more diverse, mysterious, and exciting than scientists once believed. From icy mountains and active glaciers to a hidden frontier filled with countless unexplored worlds, Pluto transformed from a forgotten object at the edge of the solar system into one of its most important scientific discoveries. Sometimes losing a title doesn't diminish something, it reveals its true importance.